it breaks your heart, doesn't it? I'm choking up just reading that. It's so hard.
Really, really beautiful post. I think it's really hard, isn't it? I think when my ex died years ago, I remember just desperately wanting this book that everyone else seemed to have on how you should behave if you've lost somebody and how other people should respond to you. I mean, I found, on the most part, people found it really difficult. I mean, I remember at the time I was in EastEnders and I used to see people that would have talked to me any time they saw me, literally diving into doors to avoid me rather than speak to me because they didn't know how to, because they think that whatever they're going to say is going to be wrong. But what I would say is that, for me anyway, that you just wanted anyone to talk to you. And I loved people asking me how they were, and I loved people mentioning it, because otherwise I felt like I had to, you know, just pretend almost that it hadn't happened because of other people's discomfort. Yeah. But I do think it's really hard.
I mean, almost from what she's saying there, which is, you know, if someone says, how are you, they have been courageous enough to say that to her, and then she says, I just want to scream. So in a way, that's kind of why people are nervous about approaching somebody who's grief-stricken, because you do think, oh, you know, am I going to say the right thing, or blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I think because I was a reporter for so many years, an on-the-road reporter, and I used to go, you know, for interviews, to do interviews with people in all sorts of circumstances, good news, bad news, whatever. So I learned to be very upfront. And then a very dear friend of mine's husband died. And, yeah, I just said straight away what I felt for her. And she said later on, when she'd emerged from, you know, the worst part of it, she said the greatest revelation for her was how her friends behaved. And she said, actually, the friends I thought were really close friends and would be a certain way, I never heard from. Yeah. And then people in my life that I hadn't particularly put in my close friends list were amazing. And it does, it completely polarises people. It's very complex.
That's the thing, there is no book that tells you what you can do. And when someone's lost someone, I think the most important thing, really, is to be there for them, you know, whether it's getting shopping for them or popping in for a cup of coffee or chat. Because I think what happens a lot of the time is people do turn up until the funeral, and then after the funeral's happened, people disappear and you're left there grieving, you know, on your own or with your family or whatever. And I think it's... And just to cuddle and just, you know, ring and see how they are and whatever. It's, you know, just to be there to support them, really.
My friend always talks about what she calls the drive-by shepherd's pie. So, you know, when she would just open her front door and there would just be a shepherd's pie there that a friend had cooked. Because, you know, she had 3 young children and just getting out of bed in the morning was an effort. So friends would just say, they wouldn't even leave a note. It would just be, here's a pie, put it in the oven, done. Yeah. So it was amazing.
The other thing, it's further down the line, because, as you say, a lot of support is there at the beginning, but it's the months ahead. And I think a lot of people identify that if you've lost somebody, you kind of start feeling people wanting you now to be OK. Yes. Because it's really... Well, it's been 3 months. Well, it's been 6 months. Yeah. And, I mean, just grief goes on for as long as you live in different ways, doesn't it? And I don't think people get to a point where they're done and they don't want to talk about it.
And it's interesting as well, when you said about, you know, people saying, how are you? You can see in their eyes they want you to say, I'm fine, thanks. They don't want an honest answer. They don't want you to well up and be emotional. And one of the things that she said, it's such a beautifully written piece that she's put on Facebook. She said, I've learned that I never really knew what to say to others in need. I think I got it all wrong before. I tried to assure people that it would be OK, thinking that hope was the most comforting thing I could offer. And she realises now that actually that's not necessarily the best thing to say, because at the time you don't feel like
it's a new normal. It's a new normal, but it's never as good.
Yes.
It's better to say this is horrendous than say there, never mind. But I still think whatever you say, if you're caring enough to say something, I think if there feels like there's too many rules and regulations, I think that's what puts people off. Yeah. It makes people really nervous and eggshelly.
Everybody's different.
Exactly.
People want you to be upfront. Other people would rather not talk about it.
I love the little anecdote she tells about a male friend who's helping her with her kids, you know, and he says, right, we haven't got option A, I'm going to be option B, I'm going to do this with the boys. And she goes, I want option A. And he goes, well, option A isn't available, so we're just going to kick the out of option B. Yeah. And she said that's her new motto, I'm going to kick the out of option B.
Yeah. Oh, do you know, here's to option B.